Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. It's another all new news video that we've got in store for you today. And we've got a lot of news to talk about. We've got a lot of stuff to get into as we talk about some of the biggest headlines that are currently buzzing around the world of football. But before we get into all of that, I would like to remind you all to please like the video if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things will always and forever be greatly appreciated. But for now, let's dive headfirst straight into the headlines. First up, we're going to be talking about Bruno Guimarães, who's seemingly on the verge of signing for Newcastle United in the coming days. The past couple of days have seen this story really begin to snowball and develop as talks between Newcastle and Lyon have progressed to a point where a fee has finally been agreed between both clubs. The fee is said to be somewhere in the region of £33 million plus add-ons, and pending a medical, which is scheduled to be taking place today, he should become a Newcastle United player in the very, very, very near future. The Magpies have said to have fended off competition from the likes of Arsenal, as well as possible and reported interest from the likes of Manchester United and PSG as well. So this could be a big coup for Newcastle United and Eddie Howe's side. He's a bit of an all-round midfielder, a ball carrier, ball winner, likes to be progressive when the ball is in his possession. He seems to be a really impressive signing all round. We know that money plays arguably a big part in all of Newcastle's dealings now, so they are able to sort of obtain more high value players and so on and so forth like that. But don't let that kind of fool you, in the sense that this seems to be Newcastle's biggest statement so far in terms of transfers, especially after seemingly, like I say, beating some of European football, some chasing European football teams to this signature. Guimarães is seemingly very close to being unveiled as a Newcastle United player in the very, very near future. And overall, I have to say this, it's seemingly been a pretty solid transfer window, in my opinion, for Newcastle United so far. And we are still a few days yet from a transfer window being over and done with for another January. Okay, so for our next story, can you guess who I talk about when I show you this? 3, 2, 1. Yes, that's right. We're talking about Tottenham Hotspur, and it's not just games that this club seems to bottle, but it's also transfers as well. All right, all banter aside, let's get serious about this. For a while, it seemed Spurs were set to sign Adama Traore from Wolves. Talks were progressing. It seemed like there was only going to be one conclusion that was going to come from this saga, and that was that Adama Traore was going to be set to become officially a Tottenham player very, very soon. And then yesterday, it emerged that Barcelona have hijacked this deal, and the Spanish winger is set to move to Barcelona on loan for the rest of the season. This is pretty much a done deal pending a medical. The Spanish club are set to loan in these explosive winger pending a medical for the rest of the season, having agreed a deal with Wolves yesterday, which will see Barca pay Wolves Traore's wages in full between now and the end of the campaign. And there's also said to be an option to buy within clause within there as well, somewhere in the region of 30 million euros. What was interesting to me was the kind of spin that a lot of people that were close to Spurs were putting on this news of Barcelona hijacking this deal. They were basically stating that Tottenham were never really interested. He wasn't really their number one target, and that Traore wasn't prepared to play in the sort of right wing back role that Antonio Conte, the Spurs manager, was wanting to use him as. And I find it all pretty laughable, because when you break it down, obviously it doesn't make sense. It's just obviously spin that Spurs want to put out there after being sort of left embarrassed, being in pole position to sign him for so long, and then having the deal hijacked by clearly and obviously a bigger club, despite obviously Barcelona's financial troubles in recent times. The fact of the matter is that Tottenham did pursue Adama Traore. They did want him, but in typical Daniel Levy fashion, trying to save a few quid here or there, and, well, actually, let's be honest, he actually has saved several million, and a lot of money at that, because he actually didn't end up buying him. But haggling over the price here and there for a few million has ultimately cost Spurs a signing here in this instance, as it probably hasn't, as it probably has done in recent years as well. Not only that, but he knew weeks ago, we all knew weeks ago, that Spurs wanted Traore for that right wing back position. We knew that that was the intention of why Spurs were wanting to buy Adama Traore. So the media spin is clearly false and was used to try and back out of their interest once obviously the deal was hijacked. Once they realised Barcelona had overtook them in the race to sign him, this story came out. But where was this story a few weeks ago when we all knew what the purpose of signing Adama Traore was set to be at Spurs? And this is going to be a slight follow-up as well, because we're going to be talking about another story involving Spurs with Juan Luiz Diaz. Apparently, in the past couple of days, Spurs have been interested in Porto's Luiz Diaz. I spoke about him in a previous video. I talked about him being linked with a move to Liverpool, and whilst the Liverpool links are still rumoured to be there, and today there are actually stronger stories stating that Liverpool could swoop in with a bid of their own for the Porto winger, Spurs are said to be being a bit tight again when it comes to agreeing a fee with him. If Spurs basically don't sign him now, they never will, in my opinion, because either Liverpool will swoop in later on in this transfer window, or if they leave it till the summer, there'll be more interest in him, and there'll obviously be more teams that will probably have the funds to sign him, and probably be bigger teams at that, because if it's a toss-up between Liverpool and Spurs, I think he would rather go to Liverpool, of course, with Champions League football and so on, and being a bigger club and so on and so forth. And of course, if other teams enter the fray as well, then it really could be a toss-up, and Spurs have a bigger fear of missing out. And I just feel like, for Tottenham, should things like this continue, the more frustrated Antonio Conte will clearly get. As we know, he's rather outspoken, and if he isn't happy about something, he will let the person responsible know about that completely, and he's not afraid to walk away from clubs either. We've seen that in the past. So if things don't change, Antonio Conte could walk, but Spurs' transfer window that looks pretty promising going into it is looking a bit shaky right now, and seemingly looking to be a bit of an underwhelming one if things don't go to plan for the rest of the days to come. But the bottom line here should be that Barcelona are on the verge of officially completing the signing of Adama Traore pending a medical, and that Tottenham and Liverpool are seemingly in a tug of war, so to speak, with Juan Luiz Diaz, if reports are to be believed. Moving on, we come to Everton Football Club as they continue their search for a new manager. Just under 2 weeks have been removed since Rafa Benitez was sacked at Goodison Park, and after searching during that time for his successor, it's being said that the Toffees are set to interview the final 3 candidates for the job today. Just like some sort of X Factor or Britain's Got Talent sort of thing, the winner gets a job that is very unlikely to be successful in the long term because of how things tend to go when you are manager of Everton Football Club. The final 3 in question are Vitor Pereira, Frank Lampard and current caretaker manager Duncan Ferguson. Now, Pereira remains the favourite to get the job despite fan backlash over recent days, with reports began to gain momentum in the past few days of him possibly getting the job. To me, it represents a huge risk. A former Porto manager, used to winning things obviously with Porto, but that is the Portuguese league. This is the Premier League. It's completely different. To me, this would represent a huge risk because you're bringing in a complete outsider into the Premier League, hoping that he takes to the league like a duck to water. And of course, given the current fragile sort of position that Everton are in terms of the current state of the club, and the big relegation scrap that seems to be awaiting him upon his arrival, it's a big risk, in my opinion, for an outsider to come in and do this kind of job. Not impossible, just a bit of a gamble more than the others, I think. Whereas if you go with Frank Lampard, he does have Premier League and Championship experience, of course, from his time at both Chelsea and Derby respectively, regardless of how the whole career at Chelsea as a manager played out in the end. It would probably be the safer pick of the three, but Everton is such a toxic cesspit right now that I don't know if a young manager like him would thrive in that environment, particularly long term, and whether he would want to really sort of take that job, in my opinion. And as for Ferguson, his tactics may be questionable, but you can't question his passion and his love for the club. He is a passion merchant and obviously holds the club dearly to his heart. It might be a good appointment for the short term, but for the long term, I can't see it really being sustainable. Whatever the outcome may be, it might be a big few days ahead for Everton Football Club. Next, we're going to be talking about a deal that came completely out of the blue yesterday, and it involves Callum Chambers, who has joined Aston Villa from Arsenal, having signed a 3.5-year deal. The versatile player can play in both defence and midfield, and signs for Steven Gerrard's side, who have already welcomed the likes of Lucas Digne and Philippe Coutinho to Villa Park this January. Chambers played 122 times for Arsenal across all competitions, having signed back for the Gunners in 2014. For me, I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is exactly how transfers should be done. Swiftly and silently. I didn't see anybody reporting on this story at all until both clubs announced that this was a done and dusted and completed deal yesterday. I'm a big fan of transfers like this. Just, like I say, silent and swift, done deal, just no word from journalists or top tier kind of scouts or whatever it may be, just done and dusted like that. And remember as well, this isn't the first time that Villa have actually done a deal like this. Remember back in the summer when they signed Danny Ings? That came out of nowhere as well, very similar to this story. So Villa are seemingly very good at keeping their transfer dealings and their business very much under wraps at Villa Park, and I think fair play to them for that. As far as this signing goes, it could be a decent chance for Chambers to reignite his career, and I'm sure that his versatility will be a welcome addition to the Aston Villa side. Aston Villa have certainly made quite a few waves in this transfer window so far, and with deadline day on Monday, they might not be done yet. For our next story though, we are going to be sticking with the Arsenal and Aston Villa link though, as business might not be yet done between both clubs as of right now, as Arsenal are said to be interested in Villa midfielder Douglas Luiz. The Aston Villa midfielder is said to be a target of Arsenal, who are looking to add options to their midfield and of course some much needed depth. It's been reported that allegedly Villa have already rejected a bid from the Gunners for the Brazilian earlier on in this transfer window, but it's expected that Arsenal will return with an improved bid between now and Monday's deadline. Maybe the Callum Chambers deal has freed up a position that Arsenal can continue their pursuit with. And it's also worth pointing out that with 18 months left on his current contract at Villa Park, Villa may be considering cashing in on him whilst they have the good opportunity and good chance to do so. Either way, Douglas Luiz might be one name to keep your eye on in the very near future. Elsewhere, Liverpool's Takumi Minamino is subject to a lot of transfer speculation as he's been linked with a couple of clubs in the past couple of days. The Japanese international has found it difficult to get consistent first-team football since arriving at Liverpool a couple of years ago, and reports have begun to stir over a possible move away from Anfield this January. The two clubs in question, according to Sky Sports, appear to be fellow Premier League side Leeds United and French club Monaco. The Reds will obviously want to keep Taki going forward to maintain their squad depth, particularly in those attacking areas, so it's easy to see why Liverpool would want to keep him and reject any sort of approach for him. But I have to question whether the lack of consistent first-team football may be frustrating him. In my opinion, I would imagine so, and it may be something for him to really consider going forward, whether it's in this transfer window or the next. Either way, Takumi Minamino seems to have a few options in regards to his future for him to be considering. And finally, Amar Diallo has moved on loan from Manchester United to Rangers for the rest of the season. The news broke yesterday of the youngster's move just over a year after initially arriving at Old Trafford from Italian side Atalanta. Diallo has signed for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's side on loan to the end of the season, where he hopes that regular first-team football and good opportunities await him in Scotland for the title-chasing side. But of course, as I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think on any of the news topics that I talked about within this video? I'd love to know your thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, whatever you want to call it, down below in the comment section on any of the topics of discussion or news stories that I talked about within this video, because I'm sure it will all make for interesting reading. Otherwise, hit that like button on the way out if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this, but things always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch, this has been another all new news video, and I will see and speak to you all again soon in another video.